On several trans inclusion projects, including the Toronto for All project for racialized trans youth in Toronto. And I'll be hosting the events as well as moderating the panels. And as we start, we're just going to start with a small screening of a movie called A Long Road to Peace. Adebayo, do you want?
Disown me. It's really hard. At 22 years, not having your mom and dad, your brothers and sisters. I took a tough decision to stay in a place where I don't know anyone.
Start the ceremony.
Thank you very much again. Thank you for this honor of taking part in this excellent symposium that is being conducted by the organization here. Kahit na sa amin na sa gisga kay Emia sige sama kahit maga sa amin gisga Emia kaya Emia maga sa amin kintuin na no tagabi tap niya sa amin yeah, pecho mo kawin mamskuto atansi I see no
this immediately, okay? Because it's really, really affecting every single Indigenous person in Canada right now, today. It is triggering us. It is keeping us up at night. It is painfully torturing our soul. And what they've tried to do is break our spirit and take that connection that we had with Creator, with land, and everything around us. And this was strategic genocide. That's what this all is about. It is strategic genocide, strategic oppression, to make sure Indigenous peoples stay down. We do not, rise above. We do not get healthy. We do not get healed. That's what they want. That's exactly what they wanted.
Stay far away. I say a big no to you. I say a big no to you. I say a big no to you. Thank you. Thank you.
I speak my own Indigenous native language to my country. And I am many things. All of these intersections add to the human that I am. But it is mostly from walking these paths that I come to you to talk about you and your safety. So oftentimes, when people talk about Black lives or Black trans lives, they often talk about the disadvantage, the harm, the stresses, the difficulties, the morbidity. I don't like to do that because yes, that's what makes the news. But what doesn't make the news is the resilience, the strength, the survival, in spite of, despite the many harms. And it is that I want to build on, center, identify, and celebrate today. Because it is that will keep us safe, despite the many harms that are often talked about.
She said she loved me, but don't they all? Blue, the color of my lips when they found me in the hospital gown I wore for days. Black, I was told I was lesser, tainted, white. I learned I would never be pure and innocent, so why fucking bother? To this day, I peer over the edge and imagine it is quiet. And imagine there is space, finally, to hold all the queer, all the beautiful brown, all the me that is too loud and too much. But I stop myself. My work has only begun.
Because of mob justice, where I'm coming from, there's a lot of mob justice happens so much in our communities. And we fear also to talk about it. We fear going to the community because of our gender, because we are LGBTI people, we fear talking about these issues. But then it affects us so much. But then I urge everyone, in case anything happens, like gender-based violence, domestic violence, mob justice, we should always talk about this because our lives are always in danger because we fear to talk. And with such platforms, we are glad that we can talk about things that's happening within our spaces, our families, and we don't fear to talk about them. And once again, I'm congratulated by you for giving us such a space.
To do to dismantle police, us as all oppressed communities, we need to come together to have one voice. We have to stand behind indigenous communities. This is the time for us to raise our mouth and uplift the voices of indigenous communities and just shut up and listen to what they have to say.
To the police to protect their interests and, you know, keep them away from those who are calling them to accountability. However, them days, like how a lot of people have suffered police brutality today, them days, especially women, suffered a lot because we had what we call resolving issues culturally within our settings. Now, it is a fact that our cultures come with a lot of values that are desirable, that are amazing, but they also come with values, what they call values, that are actually violations of human rights. Now, in those days, just like today, to bring out, for example, an issue of child abuse, sexual abuse in a home was kind of like taboo. And what these Mayumba Kumis used to do is that they would call the families and make peace between the families. And the victim and the perpetrator would be sent back to live together in peace. And this would go on and on.
Politicians, and they pressured their governments and they pressured everybody into it. And I think to keep that sustainability up, when we are starting to see that attention leaving on something, that's when you have to put the pressure on the governments, because then the media gets involved. As soon as the media gets, use them for what they're there for, right? They love a good media scrum, so use that media scrum. You make enough noise, you send enough letters, you make enough phone calls, they suddenly can't do their work. Then the media gets involved because they're complaining they can't do our work. We haven't done anything except write these letters, and there they are with the media scrum. And guess who's got the media? It's us, because we're creating a problem for them. We have to make it impossible for them to do what it is they keep on doing without paying attention to what it is they are doing. And I think that's really important, to look at. I think when we look at on a lateral violence level, we have to look at our own communities, and start looking at those colleagues of ours that are saying, hey, you know what, like this person, just because they may be trans, well, you can't be gay because you're trans. I've heard this one, you can't be lesbian because you're trans. I've heard that from people. And it's like, no, we have to start, even though we may not be trans ourselves, saying, hey, you know what? I know people who are trans and lesbian, and maybe you should talk with them and then come back and ask me that same question, and those kinds of things, so that people do start talking to each other instead of just talking about each other or fighting with each other. Like, I know, especially the lesbian movement, and I'm not lesbian myself, but I do know that the lesbian movement is also experiencing a lot of erasure and invisibility right now. And they're feeling the brunt of it. And sometimes that comes off sideways, because then they'll go and blame another community because the trans community has a whole bunch of visibility right now and they're not getting any. So then they'll blame them and blah, blah, blah. And that's all petty. In the end, I think the point is we have to redirect people right back to what the real issue, the real issue is. We all need our human rights. All of us. I don't care what your orientation is. I don't care what your gender is. We need our human rights. End of story, And so in the end, when we're talking to people about that, I think redirecting people to that point of, so what are you doing about it? Because a lot of people love that Facebook's a wonderful thing, but a lot of people love to get on Facebook and say, oh, rant, type, rant, and they'll press like and mad faces and all these other things. Do they do anything else? Like a lot of people do nothing else except share a post, which is great. We need that too. But where's the backup, right? They'll share a post, they'll go on with their day. They might go back to, I don't know, I'm just going to put this out there. They might go back to their suburban home with their white picket fence and whatever else. And, and they're done. They'll forget about it tomorrow, right? Or in 5 minutes when this page scrolls by. So I think we need to start putting it on people. So what, if you're so upset by this, then what are you doing about it? And if they say, I don't know, and because they're not from a marginalized community, I'm getting a lot of that right now because of the situation with the Indigenous kids being found, right? And they'll say, well, we don't know what to do because we don't want to offend Indigenous people. I'm like, you know what? We need your voice. Be appalled, be outraged, but don't give us an appalled outrage. Oh, this is such a shock post. Fine, do that, but then say, and I'm writing my MP, and I'm doing this, and I'm going to that march. You don't have to do it all. Nobody can do it all. Nobody.
Saskatchewan, Escazone, and Red River, Ayakwe. So what I've said to you is my name is Earth Song. That's the name I had when I was a little spirit up with all of creation. And then I came into being a human being, and my parents gave me the name Maureen Waters. And so I still like my name, Aski-Nikamun. And because I didn't like Laureen, because it didn't really have a meaning, I prayed and got the name Blue. And that came to me in a way that I didn't understand, because I'm not a good speller, but I knew that blue was spelled with an E. And so at the time I was thinking, my name is Bleu. What name is that? So I called out to Saskatchewan and I asked some of my relatives, hey, is there a name in Cree that, in the English language, it's BLU? And they said, nope, ain't no name like that. So I called down to Nova Scotia, Cape Breton, and I said, hey, is there a Mi'kmaq name that's spelled BLU? And they said, nope, ain't no name like that. And I was like, what's going on? I prayed for this name and this is the name that I was told. And I don't understand. And so I sat with that for a while trying to figure it out, and I couldn't figure it out. And then finally I asked one of my white friends, thinking, well, I've asked all my indigenous family, I might as well start asking other people from other places. Maybe the name comes from somewhere else. And so when I asked my friend, they said, yeah, that means blue. And I said, no, it doesn't. No, there's no E there. It's bleu. And they said, no, that's another way of spelling blue. And I said, oh, why do I always get things the hard way? I said, I didn't understand it. They said, well, of course your name is Blue. And I said, why? They said, because it goes with your last name, Waters, Blue Waters. And I said, oh, okay, now I get it. I love it.